What's up, guys? This video is going to explain how to make yes or no questions in English. I'm going to teach you the rules, and in the end I will show you one simple secret that's going to make asking questions easy. And of course we're going to learn using music. As you know, I believe that music is the best way of learning a language. So I have a lot of songs for you in this video. So if you don't like this song, don't worry. You can pick one or two of the other songs that you like and use those to practice your questions. Now, in order to form a yes-no question in English, you need to do what is called
subject auxiliary inversion.
I know that might sound complex, but I'm going to explain it in simple terms. Yes-no questions in English are actually based off of simple sentences. Most sentences in English have a subject first, then a verb. But when we make a yes-no question, we move one of the verbs to the front of the sentence, and then the subject comes after. Now let's take a look at a few different types of yes-no questions you can ask. The main thing to think about when you're making a yes-no question is what kind of verb you're using. There are three basic types of verbs to think about when you're making a yes-no question: state of being verbs, auxiliary verbs, and all other kinds of verbs. Now I'm going to explain what the difference between these verbs are. The first type of question we will look at uses the state of being verb. State of being verbs are any of the verbs on this list: am, are, is, was, were, and be. So let's take a simple sentence that uses one of these verbs. I am wrong. Of course, this is something that I would never say, but some people do say it. And in order to turn this sentence into a question, we simply move the verb to the front of the sentence. It's that easy. Now it's a question that asks, am I wrong? And this happens to be the name of the song that we're listening to right now. Here are some other songs you can listen to practice your state of being verb questions. Let's move on to the next type of yes-no question. This type of question uses auxiliary verbs. An auxiliary verb is a smaller verb that comes before another verb and modifies the meaning a little bit. You might have also heard these called helping verbs or modal verbs. All these terms mean basically the same thing. Here is a list of auxiliary verbs that you might run into: can, could, do, have, may, might, must, should, will. Now, when you have a sentence with an auxiliary verb and a normal verb, we are going to take the auxiliary verb only and put that at the beginning of the sentence. So take the sentence, you can feel the love tonight. Now, in order to make a yes-no question out of this sentence, we simply take the first verb, can, and put it in front. We now have, can you feel the love tonight? And that's a question. Here are some other songs that can help you practice your questions with auxiliary verbs.
Do you want to build a snowman?
The last type of yes-no questions you need to know about is the group of all other verbs. I'm not going to make a list of the verbs in this group because there are millions of them. When we have a sentence that doesn't have an auxiliary verb, we have to add an auxiliary verb in order to make a question. Now, no matter what the sentence is, you can almost always add one of the do verbs and it will still be correct. There, that looks better. So let's take a simple sentence like this. You want to build a snowman. Now the verb want is all by itself there with no other verbs to keep it company. So let's add the word do. Now this is still a correct sentence in the English language, and we can treat it just like any other sentence that has two verbs. That means in order to make this a question, we have to move the do to the front of the sentence, and we get, do you want to build a snowman? I want to point out that you have to include the word do here. It is not correct if you say, want you build a snowman? That sounds really weird to an English speaker. Here are some other songs that might help you with these types of questions.
People are asking where you've been.
Now that we know all the rules, let's take a moment to practice. So far, we've been looking at songs that have questions in the titles. Now let's take a look at some songs that have simple sentences in their titles, and we are going to change them into questions. This sentence uses a state of being verb, is. So we're going to take that verb and put it at the beginning of the sentence. Now the question that we have is heaven a place on earth? I want to hold your hand. Now, wanna is just a fast way of saying want to. Since want is not a state of being verb, and it's not one of our auxiliary verbs, we have to add the auxiliary verb do. Then we move do to the beginning of the sentence. Do I want to hold your hand? Now, that is kind of a weird thing to ask someone, but it is a correct sentence in the English language. Next, we're going to take the song I Will Survive. Survive is our main verb, so we're going to take the auxiliary verb will and put that at the beginning of the sentence. Will I survive? Hopefully, that's not something you will ever have to ask. I don't want to miss a thing. In this case, we already have an instance of the auxiliary verb do as part of the word don't. So we're going to take that word and put it at the beginning of the sentence. Don't I want to miss a thing? Now, I don't know when you would ask this, but at least it's grammatically correct. You're the one that I want. Now, the verb in this sentence is the word are, and that's part of the contraction you're. And since are is a state of being verb, we're just going to move that to the front. Are you the one that I want? Here's the last one. We didn't start the fire. Now, the main verb is start, and the auxiliary verb is did, which is part of the word didn't. So we're going to take that contraction and move it to the front. Didn't we start the fire? Now there's one last thing that I want to mention before we go, and it's very important. The other thing we do to make a yes-no question is raise our voice at the end of the phrase. It goes like this. Pay attention to my voice at the end of the sentence when I ask these questions. Do you believe in magic? Do you want to dance? Is it over? Have you ever seen the rain? Is heaven a place on earth? In fact, this is even more important than any of the other rules we learned earlier. And here's the secret that is going to help you with your English questions. This is a way to cheat if you forget some of the rules and you don't remember how to make a correct English question. Just use the rising voice with a statement and it will still be a correct question in English. For example, you believe in magic? You want to build a snowman? You can feel the love tonight? I am wrong? Heaven is a place on earth? These are all grammatically correct questions in English. Now, you should still try to remember the rules because these are a much more common way of asking questions in English and they will make you sound more like a native speaker. But in an emergency situation, when you forget the rules, you can always resort to this. So thanks for watching my video. Remember to keep listening to the songs and practicing your English. I'll see you guys next time.